The prism that they view our lives through is obviously skewed. The same set of circumstances exist now that existed when those lives were taken.
We all know DL Hughley as an iconic comedian of all time, but he was not always on the right side of the law. Rumors have it that the legend made history during his rogue days as well. Maybe thanks to this lawless past, people in the industry still fear him for his outspokenness. Let's delve into the intricacies of Hughleys' career that made him the baddest man alive. Darrell Lynn DL Hughley is indeed an American actor, stand-up comedian, and television personality known for his work in the sitcom The Hughleys, which aired from 1998 to 2002 on ABC, and later on UPN. He is also quite famous for being a member of the original Kings of Comedy, a successful comedy tour and film featuring Hughleys along with Steve Harvey, Cedric the Entertainer, and Bernie Mac.
Stuff happening to white folks don't happen to nobody else. It does. I live in Southern California, and 2 people were mauled by mountain lions. And I knew right away they weren't black people.
Hughleys was born in Los Angeles to parents Audrey and Charles Hughleys. His father worked as a maintenance worker for Delta Airlines. He is the second of 4 children in his family. Growing up in the South Central area of Los Angeles, Hughleys had a challenging upbringing.
I grew up in the inner city. I grew up, like, if you threw a rock from my house, you hit it. I lived in Compton. So, like, I lived across Avalon and across. I lived on this side of Avalon, and across that Avalon was Compton.
You might not know, but Hughleys lived a partially isolated life. As he lived in a black neighborhood, he had no idea about the ways of living of white people.
I didn't know that white people lived in Los Angeles until I was watching a game show, and they used to say, we live in LA, and I go, where? And then I went to UCLA one time, and they said, entering West LA, and I went, oh.
During his formative years, at one point Hughleys became a member of the notorious African-American street gang the Bloods. Because of his gang activity, he was expelled from San Pedro High School. However, later on, Hughleys left gang life after a tragedy.
You got involved in gangs when you were
Sure, but I think it's really, I got involved with cats who lived in the same neighborhood. And
in an interview with DJ Vlad, Hughleys revealed that he chose the lawless lifestyle because he craved their acceptance. He explained that even though he is not proud of his history, he still believes that those years transformed the way he looked at life for good. He said,
as a young boy, you're looking for acceptance for any way you can get it. I learned a lot from them that I think is invaluable for me.
You see, even though Hughleys spent a lot of time with the gang members, he revealed that they were better people than most. He even praised them for being the epitome of masculinity for him.
I thought were the clearest, most honest, bravest human beings I've ever met, and not in a glorified way. I think that they just were men to me.
With such men as his role model, it's no wonder why D stood out in the entertainment industry. Unlike the negative connotation attached to the gang community, DL revealed that his crew members were righteous in their own right. He explained that even though they were on the wrong side of the law, they were never involved in malicious activities.
The things they were doing were illegal. They never struck me as particularly immoral. Like, I know a lot of things are immoral, but legal, and I know things that are legal but not immoral.
However, Hughleys told People Weekly that he had to see a lot of fighting while he was in the gang. Quote, I watched people do a great deal of physical harm to each other. You know it's wrong, but you don't have the courage to be different. Aside from that, Hughleys was kicked out of school as a consequence of his gang affiliation. But still, he didn't give up on his studies and decided to get a GED, which he passed with flying colors. Most of you might not realize this, but obtaining a General Educational Development (GED) certificate is a significant achievement, as it demonstrates a lack of academic proficiency equivalent to a high school diploma.
A young Asian girl got shot at UCLA, and then you heard drive-bys all the time. For us, it was just shooting out of cars.
However, DL decided to leave the dark days behind when he had to deal with the trauma of losing his cousin at the hands of his gang. On top of the injustice, the gang prohibited Hughleys from going to his cousin's funeral. That was the time he realized that he had gotten caught up in a serious problem and he had to get out of there.
When he died, they wouldn't let me go to the funeral, which I didn't understand, but blood my cousin, so I knew that later on I would come to realize that me being there wouldn't have been a great thing. To me, he was just my family.
In the depths of his journey, Hughleys was confronted with the chilling reality of a lawless life. The darkness that shrouded his path revealed its true sinister face, leaving an indelible mark on his soul. It was in these harrowing moments that he came to a profound realization. He was not meant for this treacherous existence. As he emerged from the shadows, a newfound clarity washed over him, bringing with it a deep sense of remorse for his crewmates who remained entangled in the web of their circumstances.
I knew I didn't have it in me to take human life, and it just seemed brutal to me, and it seemed that I knew that wasn't in my thing.
In a vulnerable moment, Hughleys revealed that his empathy for his cousin and family knocked things into perspective. In a 1997 interview with the Ann Arbor, Michigan Daily, Hughleys said, quote, "It was a terrible thing, and what was even worse was that he was in a rival gang, so I couldn't even go to his funeral or I might have been shot. I was afraid I'd do something you can't walk away from." Contrary to what many believe, DJ actually kept a close eye on his neighborhood. He explained that the things that were portrayed on television would have a direct immediate impact on his neighborhood. He said,
First it was Shaft, everybody wanted to be that. Then it was Kung Fu, everybody wanted to do that. And then it was, Scarface. My neighborhood changed overnight.
Hughleys candidly admitted that he was surprised by his success because when he started to get into the comedy industry, a lot of things were happening that put African Americans in a very bad light.
LA was a whole different kind of animal, so it was an interesting time to kind of grow up and try to be a comedian and try to be a husband, and so it was a...
Fans all over the world support DL's narrative by saying that indeed, without proper education, the people blindly followed what they saw on screens. Quote, "I like DL, and I totally agree with the problem of education, resources, leadership, opportunity, and safety. Until that is resolved, we will continue to high crime in areas where people are desperate and feel left behind. It might be quite shocking, but after leaving his lawless lifestyle, Hughleys did a literal 180 degree. He has been condemning all such actions of newcomer rappers by using his platform. Quite recently, the comedian slammed Young Thug and Gunna after the two rappers were arrested on gang-related charges and conspiring to violate the RICO Act. Hughleys took to Twitter and Instagram to call the rappers out, not only for their recent indictments, but also for going so far as to include their alleged crimes in the lyrics to some of their songs. He said, "People seem to forget the power of life and death is in the tongue. If you call yourself Thug and Gunna, what you're probably gonna do is go to jail." Coming back, Hughleys went to work in the circulation department of the Los Angeles Times as a telemarketer, where he met his wife, LaDonna. Hughleys' telemarketing job with the newspaper eventually evolved into a position as a circulation manager. Referring to his job with the Los Angeles Times, Hughleys told Newsweek, quote, "I worked there 10 years, had all my kids there, bought my house there, and used all their medical insurance until I left to do comedy. Most people had odd jobs trying to make it. I had a real job." Although Hughleys was earning a steady income as an assistant circulation manager, the family was faced with a financial crisis when LaDonna experienced complications during a pregnancy. Hughleys told People, "The rent check bounced. We had no food in the house, and the electricity was cut off. I remember thinking, I will never let this happen again." DL's career as an entertainer began in the early 1990s when he became the first host of the black entertainment television bet program Comic View. He quickly made appearances on popular shows like The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, the HBO comedy Half Hour, and Sister Sister.
No, I ain't gonna bother no Jerry curl, because I know that plastic bag makes so much noise, and now y'all always irritable, huh? Crumple, crumple, I cannot sleep!
During this time, Hughleys also ventured into the world of film, making his debut in Inspector Gadget and gaining further recognition in the original Kings of Comedy, a successful comedy tour and film featuring Hughleys alongside Steve Harvey. He continued to appear in movies such as Inspector Gadget 2, Scary Movie 3, Soul Plane, and Spy School. However, Hughleys' talents extended beyond television and film. He hosted a show on cable news network, CNN, called DL Hughley Breaks the News from 2008 to 2009, and was an on-air radio personality with the Hughleys Morning Show, which premiered in 2009.
Shocking. You know who wasn't shocked by that? Black people. No, we were not, I think that is a word.
Later on, he hosted The Hughleys Show, distributed by Cumulus Media Network. Before his rise to fame, Hughleys worked other jobs but eventually left to pursue comedy full-time. He gained recognition through hosting auditions for HBO's One Night Stand series and appearing on HBO's Def Comedy Jam. His second HBO special received critical acclaim and became one of the network's highest-rated specials. Hughleys also landed acting roles, including the CBS series Double Rush in 1995.
My father's 80 years old, got high blood pressure and diabetes, so the doctor said he needs to walk the dog so he can get some exercise. So I bought him a dog so he can walk the dog. Now the dog got high blood pressure and diabetes.
Throughout his career, Hughleys honed his craft on the comedic circuit, selling out venues across the United States. He worked alongside esteemed comedians like Keenan Ivory Wayans, Damon Wayans, Martin Lawrence, and Chris Rock. Despite watching his peers achieve movie deals and greater fame, Hughleys persevered and remained focused on his own path. Quote, I wondered what I was doing wrong. I wondered what I was doing or not doing to get invited to the party. It was tough to stay focused. Keeping true to his goal, Hughleys continued to work hard, and he was eventually able to move his family from Baldwin Hills to the upscale West Hills neighborhood. For the first time in his life, he was living among white people. This situation provided comic opportunities for Hughleys. He, along with his agent, created a comedy showcase to which they invited executives from all the major television networks. The material in the showcase consisted of stories from Hughleys' real-life experiences in the suburbs. The comedy showcase was a tremendous success, and he was offered several opportunities to create a new television show.
Black people don't mess with death. Like, it's only white daredevils. Only white daredevils. You don't see no black daredevil.
Ha! I'm gonna tease you, Death. Ha ha! Didn't get me this time.
When the Hughleys debuted on ABC, it was an instant hit. Hughleys wrote 7 of the first season's 23 shows and served as a co-executive producer along with Chris Rock and Matt Wickline. Although there were allegations of racism in some of the scripts, Hughleys dismissed these concerns. He said, quote, some white people think I'm a racist. Some black people think I'm a racist. But I'm not doing the show from anybody else's voice but mine. I hope people understand that I'm telling it the way I see it. It's just my experience. Hughleys credited the show's success to the fact that it focuses on family issues and concerns that are universal. As he told Ebony in an interview, quote, every group has its own idiosyncrasies, but at a certain point we are all human. We all have the same aspirations. We all want to keep our cable on. We all want our kids to eat. My comedy is very relatable. That's one of the greatest things I've ever been told. As most of you might not know, Hughleys has a great command of history and politics. He has often used his voice to give deep insights on several occasions, where he felt his people were being neglected. In an interview with SiriusXM Satellite Radio's Ron Bennington, the comedian criticized President Barack Obama for not showing enough passion. According to Mediate, Hughleys pointed out that Obama tends to respond to criticism intellectually. However, Hughleys says that Obama's calm demeanor resulted in a lack of enthusiasm from the public in the election. He said, quote, he doesn't seem to get that you have to be willing at some point to fight fire with fire. He's closer to being a white kid. Intellectually, like his experiences are so different from mine that, I should say, he responds like an intellect as opposed to a regular guy. He is so plain and so nonplussed, people see that as devoid of passion, and that is somehow what we're missing. So I think they're reacting like if a woman wants a reaction from you, she has to push your buttons, and I think that's what the country's doing. He even went a step further and revealed that the media is always trying to cover up governmental agendas, and most Americans are not even aware that their rights to knowledge have been revoked. In an interview with Ebony, he said, quote, I think it is more about people's attention span. Why do people get their news off Twitter? It's because it's easier to digest in 140 characters. I think we are a much less complex society than we have ever been, which is probably why people respond to the more simplistic things. Nobody likes to think anymore. People kind of like to have things handed to them or figured out for them. With comedy, the premise is set up in a punchline so all the parts are there. Over the course of his career, Hughleys has always spoken against racism that prevails in the country. During an appearance on The View, Hughleys revealed he first encountered racial profiling when he was only 8. He explained that he was walking with a friend in Los Angeles when a police officer stopped and questioned him about a suspect he had no connection to at all. Quote, I'm walking down the street, me and my best friend, and the police screech up to us and ask, where's such and such? We said, we don't know. 50 years later and thousands of miles away, this kid's gonna have the same introduction to police that I did.
Stop saying that we are equal. Stop saying that we are all the same. Stop saying that there is no more racism.
He even had the galls to touch on several issues such as the NFL protests calling out racism, America's obsession with black bodies and white people's irrational fear of black people. We've been reading, for looking somebody in the eye, for whistling at somebody. The of black people at the hands of people of authority has always happened. Police are doing what they've always done, which is keeping you and your community where you belong. End quote. His commentary on pop culture has often created controversy, but that has not stopped Hughleys from chiming in. The veteran entertainer is an unapologetic voice in the industry who has spoken against the inhumane and depressing lyrics the young generation of rappers have been calling music. He said, quote, you have seen so many situations. You know why you're alive now? You don't believe you're immortal. I believe that bad shit is possible. It's arrogant to believe that something should go the way you think it should go. There's some people who test death. When they say the power of life and death is in the tongue, I've heard people talk themselves into dying. You make a song called Ready to Die, guess what might happen? Fans believe that even if DL tried his best, there will always be people who choose to be ignorant. LOL. DL Hughley, I applaud your tenacity in trying to educate people, but this clearly shows there will always be those who, no matter what the facts are going to hold on to beliefs or narratives that best suit them. If they benefit from the power structure as is, we can expect that they may never admit the truth. Salute to you for trying though. Another added, not only is he brilliant in his analysis and observation, but he's an entertainer that boldly articulates his perspective on social justice. I haven't seen this since Muhammad Ali, Jim Brown, and Mr. T. Aside from talking about several different topics, D also had an interview with the most notorious person in the entertainment industry, Suge Knight. You see, just as Hughleys was a part of the gang, Knight was as well. Knight is known for his involvement in the music industry, particularly as the co-founder and CEO of Death Row Records, a record label that was influential in the 1990s hip-hop scene. Back in the day when Dr. Dre, the other founder, was punched in the face by an unidentified man at Vibe Awards, people started talking crap about Suge for being jealous of Dre. Well, in the midst of all the frenzy, Hughleys decided to invite Suge to clear his name. It is important to note that since they had similar backgrounds, it can be inferred that he felt sympathy for Suge for getting all the negative attention.
It started when an unidentified man punched Dr. Dre in the face. Take a look at this.
In his own comedic way, he comforted Suge in that time of crisis. He said,
"You are blamed for almost everything. The Vibe Awards took place, and all on the internet, and all the news reports, everybody said that you had something to do with it."
In a bold strategy, Hughleys cleverly provided Suge a platform to tell his side of the story when everyone had named him a criminal without much thought. Suge's intern decided to spill the beans and announce that he had nothing to do with the incident.
People's not talking about Dre getting an award. They talking about the incident, him getting socked before he getting an award. And you know, that really had nothing to do with.
Not only that, Hughleys even lent Suge an imaginary hand by recounting all the things that Suge had done for the music industry over the years.
You've been instrumental in West Coast hip-hop really took off when you put your stamp on it. So it's kind of gangster rap, what didn't really even exist.
Even if Suge had nothing to do with the incident, the perception was not baseless. You see, Suge became affiliated with the mob Piru, and even hired many members in Death Row Records. For those who don't know, Piru Street Boys was founded by Sylvester Scott and Vincent Owens. According to some sources, the Piru Boys were initially associated with the Crips, but later had a falling out. Over time, Piru formed an alliance with other smaller street gangs such as the Brims, Bishops, and Denver Lanes. All in all, in the world of entertainment, there is one figure who stands unwavering amidst the chaos and uncertainty. DL Hughley, with his close affiliation to the gritty realities of thug life and his unyielding loyalty to his roots, has emerged as a force to be reckoned with. It doesn't take a genius to realize that crossing him is a perilous path, and for good reason.